Hello, friends. How's it going? So, Maven is probably still going to be in the game in 317. We saw that she is teased in the teaser. We saw a picture of her face kind of fading in and out. We think that they are coming is going to be her relatives. Little baby Maven is her angry uncle and cousins are coming. And I thought now would be a good time to at least get out a full instructional video going to extreme detail about how I think about this fight, how we can analyze it, and how you can make this more manageable, because we're probably going to continue farming Maven in addition to more bosses similar to her in 3.17. So what I'm going to be doing here is I actually did a tutorial walkthrough on stream yesterday at twitch.tv/subtractem, and I want to walk through that and go into even more detail. There's going to be a little bit of redundancy as I talk over myself, but hopefully this extra detail really helps you understand how I think about the fight and how I make it a very trivial and understandable encounter that I really think anyone can do and enjoy as long as you like boss fights. So anyway, let's get right into it. So you walk underneath Maven and you summon her. The brain will spawn some balls that will chase you. They will put a pool on the ground that does damage over time. You want to pop those in the corners, similar to the shaper balls, so you don't have to worry about those. All right, we're gonna do every little thing here. So what you just saw was Maven's default attack. What we can do is go to poedb.tw. You can type in the Maven up here in the search bar, and you can go to the Maven. Maven is a little bit unique in that there are actually two different parts of Maven herself. There is the Maven, and then there's nucleus of the Maven. That is the brain. So if we're just in this phase right now, this is Maven is right here, and then the brain is on the outside. We can take a look at her moves and look at all the different numbers here. And this is the number one way. If you want to really learn all of the nuts and bolts of a boss fight, understand how to build your defenses, maybe even some of your offenses for maybe she has too much res in one thing or what have you, this is the place to go. We can see right off the bat, she can't be knocked back. She can't be fully slowed. She has all the regular Cirrus, boss curse effect, all that type of stuff. Can't be easily frozen or anything like that. She's got really good resistances. I believe that this is very, very similar to what Cirrus and Shaper are. This is just the standard for the T1 bosses in the game. You can see that she has 48.8 million life, and she does 2,700 damage with her regular attack. First thing that I like to do when I look at one of these is just peruse the different abilities that they have. And there can be some really interesting ones that help you understand some of the triggers as well. So you can see we have Teleport Maven to center. And the cool thing about this is you can look at the cast time and the cooldown time for some of these things. And that gives you an idea of when they're going to be moving around, certain timings that you can do. Maybe your build relies on certain timings for lining up, a bunch of war cries or something like that. So starting off, we have the Maven projectile here. I believe that this Maven projectile is actually what is triggered from the Maven laser barrage, which is when she says stand still and she shoots out 2 sets of 3 lasers. And as you can see, it does about average 4,000 lightning damage. And it's also very, very easy to dodge. So we don't really worry about that too much. After that, we have the Maven memory game, which is, this is going to one-shot almost every single build in the game. We'll get into a little bit more detail about that, but we can see that it does gigantic physical damage that is converted to all 3 elements. Always freezes, it hits 3 times, and then if you're even standing in the pool as it's expanding, it does about 700 damage of hybrid fire and cold per second, which feels really, really bad. We have the Maven Circle Slam. That is where she puts a big circle that kind of charges up and then does damage. As you can see, this is very, very big hybrid elemental damage. You cannot dodge it, you cannot block it. It is just very, very scary, but it is also a super telegraphed move. Honestly, if you stand still in that thing and you get hit by it, you probably deserved it. Maven Cannon Cold Projectile. This is the Cascade of Pain. As we can see, it has a floor of pretty high damage, and she attacks with it a bunch of times. This, to me, is the one thing that will kind of trip you up, especially if you don't have chill or freeze immunity. This will get your build. If you don't properly dodge this thing, this will really get people killed. This is kind of actually the main scary thing to me in the regular Maven encounter. Maven Superfile Projectile. This is when she says, take this, and she shoots out a very big fireball. As we can see, the way that it is coded is it does a projectile that actually does absolutely nothing, but then on impact, it triggers a secondary skill that does about 7,500 damage that always ignites, and it does 100% more damage with ignites. So it's gonna, if you don't have ignite immunity or really, really high fire res, this will hurt really, really bad. The nice thing about this move, it is incredibly slow and it's very, very easy to dodge. And then as you can see, when we're looking at the memory game, it causes 3 bursts, and then we have the then it causes 5 bursts, and then it causes 6 bursts. Very, very few builds can actually deal with any of this damage. They just wanted to make something that's like, all right, this is going to kill 99.99% of builds in the game. Deal with it. So these are all the moves from Maven herself. In addition to that, we have the Brain. So the Brain shoots out a lot of different projectiles that all have slightly different damage numbers and all that. We don't really need to go into too much detail. All you really have to do is just kind of peruse this and look at the damage types. As we can see with Maven, she is all cold and lightning damage across the board, except for a little bit of fire with her super fire move here. Everything else that she does is cold and lightning with maybe some fizz sprinkled on top. So there's all of these balls that the Brain is gonna, as you're gonna see in the video, there's all these balls that the Brain is putting all over the place that you kind of want to dodge, but they're generally just triggers that you can kind of just walk through them and not really worry about the damage. So the 2 scary things that the Brain does is the Ion Cannon and the Brain Beam Blast. So the Ion Cannon, I believe, is the big triple laser beam that you get during the Maven damage phases. And it's super, super choreographed. I'll call that out in the video. And then we have the Maven Brain Beam Blast. That is the expanding dome that comes out of the Brain that you have to go on the outside platform to dodge, which is very, very easy. And that's just a way that you can spend a little bit of time preparing for a boss fight and just making it more reasonable as you go into it. So let's get back to the actual fight. Balls. So you don't have to worry about those pools later on in the... These are her regular attacks. They're doing 2,700 physical damage. These are dodgeable. If you have evasion, if you have armor, these things do absolutely nothing. My build has decent evasion and no armor at all. And you can see that, like, when it hits my character, DPS maybe, you know, it chunks my energy shield a little bit down here. But honestly, right, it's barely hurting me. No big deal whatsoever. Her regular attacks do very low damage. So as you can see, this is what I was talking about with the Brain putting a lot of balls on the screen, right? It's shooting these projectile balls out here. It's having these rotating balls that just kind of are all over the screen. They're just not that scary. You know, you can see that I kind of just ignore them even. Watch this. Just DPS Maven, her regular, right? So it's shooting this big cavalcade of a ton of different balls. This is going to spawn all these rotating balls around the screen. These rotating balls right here, you can just walk over them and it takes them about a second to pop. So as long as you just walk through them and pop them, you don't even have to worry about it too much. Very low damage. So Cascade of Pain, that is the one move that I find is kind of scary from her. This one will stun you. This one can chill and freeze you. This one does pretty chunky damage. You know, as we said, it does about 4,500 cold damage. It pierces you. It can crit. And she shoots a bunch of them. So when she says Cascade of Pain, she actually has a decently fast turning radius, but they're slow projectiles. What that means is you can actually be kind of far away from Maven, go in certain directions. The projectiles will come out towards you kind of slowly, and then you can trick her by flame dashing or whatever you want, whatever movement skill you want to use to get over there. And since the projectiles are slow, they're going to go where she was facing. You actually don't want to be right up on Maven. You want to take advantage of the slow projectile speed. This is a little bit different versus how you deal with other bosses in the game like Innocence or Cirrus, where you want to be right up on them. So you'll see she's doing the Cascade of Pain. The projectiles are kind of slow, right? They're not super, super instant. So I run one direction and you're going to see me flame dash the other direction. One scary one. You just want to, and then you flame dash the other direction. And if she had more balls coming out, those balls would go down to the right and I would be over here nice and safe. Now, what you see coming out from the Brain right now, this is the balls. Those are the balls. So what these balls do is they will chase you and accelerate until they become very, very fast. You cannot dodge them forever. It is like the Shaper balls where you pop them and a pool shows up on the ground. But unlike Shaper, you can't dodge them forever. They will accelerate and they will get you. So what you want to do is pop them right in the corner. And as more balls spawn, you want to pop them on top of each other so you don't have an ever-expanding pool. That come out that are scary, just stand in the corner, pop them, flame down. I know this is a lot of different moves that are going on at once. But once you understand them, it is super, super easy. So this is the Maven Stand Still move, which I believe is actually triggering Maven Projectile. This is the Maven Laser Barrage. We can see that it does a bunch of lightning damage. It is lightning looking. So I believe it's just hitting you with a bunch of these as it hits you. What it's going to do is your character is here. Maven is right here. And it's going to spawn 3 lasers that are going to hit where your character is standing. And then it's going to spawn 3 other lasers that are going to hit, you know, your character if it runs towards those lasers. There are a few different ways that I like to deal with it. Either do a little loop-de-loop. This is my favorite way. I don't believe I do it in this case, but I do it later on in the video. You can just do a little loop and you want to run back to where the original lasers are. This will keep you in about the same position as where you started. It can be really comfortable if you're happy where your current positioning is, or you can just run in a straight line either direction. You just want to run perpendicular to the line of where it is. You want to run, a 90-degree angle either direction from where that line is, and it's just nice and easy. Honestly, the laser doesn't do that much damage, so if you have a tankier character, you could even run straight through this laser and you're okay. Run straight through the laser and then go back where you were and go back to DPSing Maven. Dash way, when she says stand still, don't stand still. Yep, and the general thing with Maven is just don't do what she says. Don't listen to the boss and you'll be okay. Cascade of pain, scary, walk away. Flame dash. Just talked over myself there. So, as I said the first time, walk away a little bit and then flame dash kind of oblique to her. Because they're slower projectiles, you want to go away from her. Just walk directly away and then flame dash perpendicular either direction away from her, and you're only getting hit by 1 or 2 and you're okay. Scary, walk away. Flame dash oblique to her. Keep the DPS on her. Do not stand still. So you can see I did the little loop-de-loop that time. And in fact, because I was so close to Maven, it was really, really easy. I didn't even have to do a full loop-de-loop. So you just want to go in a comfortable direction and a little loop. Make sure that you just cross the pathway for where the lasers are going to be crossing each other. And very, very comfortable. So we can see that there are 3 more balls coming out. I am going to go and try to pop them on top of the original pools that I popped. More balls. You want to pop the balls on top of the original pool so the pools overlap, just like that. All right, so the brain, this is going to be a lot of me saying the same thing twice, I guess. And then the brain comes out to the middle. You're going to find these platforms. These bonus platforms will open up when the brain starts coming out to the middle. Just find them, as we saw in here. It is a gigantic blast that does insane amounts of damage. We will not be able to survive that, so just get to the outside platform and wait it out. A bonus thing that you can do with those balls that you pop and make the pools, if the timing works out just right, you can bring those balls on the outside platform and put the pool out there. And that way you have no pools whatsoever for the second phase. You don't want to spread pools all over the place. When the brain comes out, you will have these extra areas. So it did the pop. Now we can go back to the middle. On the outside, you want to stand on those platforms when that pop happens. These lasers will come out. These lasers will put a degen on you. You can't get your life back by normal means. You won't be able to regen and you won't be able to leech. Your regular sources of getting your life back are disabled. So be very careful. Try not to get that debuff on you. If you do get the debuff, just dodge things for a while. Don't try to go crazy. Otherwise, you'll die. Now, it will spawn a bunch of map bosses, and you have to DPS the brain. Don't touch these beams. They will put a debuff on you that will make it so you can't get your life back, and it will feel very bad. Don't touch the beams. And then you just want to put DPS on the brain, kill the scary map bosses as you need to. As you can see, the pools are still here, making the arena a little bit smaller, a little uncomfortable. Maven's going to come back out. Sometimes you can DPS her, but sometimes she'll go straight to her memory phase. Memory phase will happen. There will be 3 pies. I like to say it out loud. Top, right, top. The Maven memory game. This thing is very controversial. I'm not going to get into my opinions on it, but if you don't like it, it's still in the game, so you got to deal with it. The memory game looks like this, right? There are 3 pie slots. I like to call this top, left, and right. Depending on your preferences, you may want to call these 1, 2, 3, or whatever works for you. Some people even just use colors or something like that. I find that kind of confusing. There will be 3 different memory game phases. The first one will be 3. The second one will be 6. And then the third one will be 6 plus lasers. It's our favorite, 6 plus lasers. I think a lot of people just kind of go in here and they say, all right, I'm just going to practice this by going in the Maven fight. Do some Simon Says, honestly. Do some Simon Says. I know you might hate it if you don't like it, but look up a Simon Says thing on the internet and just practice. The number one thing that I like to do is think of it as 2 sets of 3. So even on the more difficulty thing, we have 2 sets of 3 here. Right? So I can say, top, left, top, top, left, top. And if you are even remotely musically inclined or rhythmically inclined or anything like that, just put it into 2 different triplets. Think about it as these segments that you can do. A different thing that some people do is they'll actually stand on the first one. So if we go, top left, top right, something like that. People will stand on the first one, and then they only have to remember 5. The problem for me is this breaks up the rhythm, right? Like you're either going to think of it as 2 and 3, or like if you try to remember a sequence of 5 numbers right off the bat, that can be a little tricky on the brain. So that is a thing that you can do, is stand on the first one and then just try to remember 5. I like to just set it as 2 triplets that have a rhythm to them. Top, left, top, top, left, top, top, left, top, right, top, right. That will just make it so much easier to keep in your brain. Once you get used to it, it just takes a little practice, a little bit of a process in the system, and then you'll get comfortable with it. Oh, what you do is you go top, right, top. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe the visibility is bad for you. I recommend looking up something like Reshade or NVIDIA GeForce Experience. Either one of those, you can brighten the arena and make it a lot clearer for what shows on the screen. So as this is going on, you can see that there is an expanding circle out the middle. This will expand towards the outside. Once it hits the outside, it will do that gigantic blast, the olive bursts for the memory game that we saw on PoEDB, and it will do effectively infinite damage to your character unless you're very, very specific to counter that. If you stand in it, it'll do about 700 damage per second. It's a little uncomfortable, and it slows your character down. If you mess up the memory game, it will accelerate it, and it goes way, 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 way faster, and it gets much, much harder. You do still get a little bit of time to try to make it up, right? So if I did top, left, top, right, and I brushed the left side, I could immediately flame dash back to the top and fix it. If I got slowed down and I wasn't able to make it, then I would just die. There will be an ever-expanding thing in the middle that you don't want to walk on. When that hits the outside, it will pop and one-shot you. Put your DPS on the Maven. Cascade of Pain. Scary, scary. Don't stand still. Watch out for all the flying stuff on the screen. Cascade of Pain, scary. We got some more balls coming out. We want to pop the balls on top of these balls. There we go. Overlap the pools. Then we walk on the outside platform. All right, watch out for the lasers as the brain descends. You get like half a second when you see the lasers come out. Get away from those. DPS the brain, stay away from the map bosses. You can, if you need flash charges, kill the map bosses as well. In phase 2, she will now have 6 segments to her memory game. I like to think of it as 2 sets of 3. Boop, 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 boop. Right, top, left. Right, top, right. Right, top, left. Right, top, right. Right, top, left. Right, top, right. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Cascade of Pain is a scary one. Pop the balls on the outside. That move is the do what I say, just don't stand in here, and you don't have to worry about it. That is the Maven Circle Slam move. We can see it converts to cold, lightning, and fire with big damage. You can't block it. You can't dodge it. Just don't stand there. Very, very telegraphed. Very, very easy to dodge. Don't do what she says. Do not stand where that thing is. Don't. Death Made Real. This is the Big Brain Blast, which we can see right here. Maven Brain Ion Cannon. Very, very big damage. This will kill almost everybody. Just don't stand there. A big part of this is the audio cues. If hearing audio cues is difficult for you, I would recommend, turning on the voice lines. And unfortunately, it's going to be a little tricky, but you're going to be looking in the corner a lot. See where it says Death Made Real. This is going to be the big laser beams that come out of the brain. It will always be very, very choreographed. You can see where the brain is, and it's just going to go in a straight line right where the brain is. The beams are wider than they look. So you're just going to see a couple beams kind of in the middle, but it's actually going to be like pretty chunky and wide. So just don't be there. Get all the way on the other side of the arena. Stand in the fire. Right? So here's the lasers coming down this way. It's actually going to be a little bit wider than it looks. So don't be there. The brain will say Death Made Real. It will do a big laser beam like that. Just don't stand in the laser beam. Very, very choreographed. Do not stand still. All right, more balls coming out. We pop the balls right on the pool. Flame dash away. Get on the platform.
I need more mana.
In phase 3, she'll put a bunch of extra lasers with holes in them. Don't get touched by the lasers. They do the exact same thing as the brain lasers. That will put a debuff on you. Don't get your life back for about 10 seconds. Death will not be escape. I like to stand on the bottom here. I find that this gives me the most visibility. If you have trouble seeing, then what you can do is when you see the things light up, you know where something is, right? So if you see left light up, and then you see right light up, and then you see, if you aren't able to see up here very well, and you don't see anything light up, based on the rhythm, you know that it was top. So you really only have to stare at left and right here, and this will let you know what you're seeing, right? So you see left, right, you don't see either one of those, then you can say top. And I really, really encourage you just to say it out loud, really hammer that rhythm in your head, and it just makes it much, much easier. Same exact thing, 6 segments to the memory game. Right, top, right. Top, right, top. Pretty easy. Take this, she'll shoot. That is the big fireball right here. That is the Maven super fire projectile. Does big fire damage, always ignites, and double damage with ignite. Just don't get hit by it. It is a very slow moving projectile. If you really want to, you can flame dash right through it. Your character doesn't exist when you're blinking, so you can go right through it. Do not use dash. Dash does not allow you to cross through things. Dash is bad. Please don't use dash. Flame dash, however, does. Fireball, just flame dash away. Little loop-de-loop. There we go. Caretaker to me. That's the Maven fight. It's not that bad. And the drops are incredible if you get very lucky. All right, thank you for watching this. Hopefully this helps you understand the Maven fight, understand how I think about it, and I hope that this shows that if you put a little strategy, a little thought, a little preparation into it, that you can make this fight manageable and you can reap the rewards of getting decent loot if you're lucky. I had some bad luck this league, honestly, with her drops, and make really, really good currency. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch y'all next time. Goodbye.